All right, this video should help you with your V.11, evaluate integers raised to rational exponents. Remember, when you see that word rational, that's just another word for fraction. So if we look at all of our exponents here, they're fractions. All right, when we have the fractions, we need to remember that the numerator, we're going to put it in radical form. The numerator is going to be the power of the base. And the denominator is going to be the index of the radical. All right, so if we have 1 to the 1/2, that means we're going to write our radical. 1 is our base, so 1's going to go underneath. The numerator is the power. So actually, I'll color code orange. There's the power. And in purple, the index is going to go right here. Okay, so a 2 is an index that's also to be understood. You don't always have to write the 2 because that's the same as the square root. So what we're seeing here is what's the square root of 1 to the first power? So just what's the square root of 1? Well, the square root of 1 is 1 because 1 times 1 is 1. So 1 to the 1/2 is the same thing as saying the square root of 1, which is equivalent to 1. So that's how you would answer that one. Next one, 9 to the 1/2, still going to make your radical. Your base is going to go underneath. All right, whatever your denominator is going to be your index. Whatever your numerator is going to be your power. So 9 to the first is just 9, and then we're taking the square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3 because 3 times 3 equals 9. So 9 to the 1/2 power, same as the square root of 9, answer would be 3. Next one here, go ahead and make the radical, put the base of 81 underneath. All right, your power is your numerator, which is 1, so we don't have to write that, it's just understood. And then your index, your denominator, is 4. So it's the 4th root of 81. So we want to think what number multiplied 4 times can give us 81. So if you wanted to start with 2, just try that. What's 2 times 2 times 2? And see, because that's the same as saying 2 to the 4th. All right, so if you need to do it the long way, then that's fine. All right, well, that's 16, so that's not going to work. So then go to your next number up. Let's try 3. So you would do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 3 to the 4th. All right, use your calculator if you have to. All right, well, 3 to the 4th is 81. So the 4th root of 81 is 3. So 81 to the 1/4, same thing as saying the 4th root of 81, is equivalent to 3. All right, 243 to the 1/5. So make your radical. Your base, 243, is going to go underneath. Your power here is still 1, so we don't really need to worry about that. All right, and then it's the 5th root. Your index is 5, so the 5 is going to go here. So just like we did up here with the 4s, now we're going to figure out what number multiplied by itself 5 times will give us 243. So I would say let's maybe start a little higher than 2 and start with 3. See if that works. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is the same as 3 to the 5th. And if we see what that equals, that's 243. So that tells you that the 5th root of 243 is 3. Next one, 27 to the 1/3. And make your radical. 27 is the base. Power is still 1, so we don't really need to use that. Your index is 3, so it's the 3rd root of 27. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives us 27? Well, if you need to start with 2, you can do that. 2 times 2 times 2 is the same as 2 to the 3rd. Well, that would give us 8, so that's too low. So now try 3. 3 times 3 times 3, same as 3 to the 3rd. Well, 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So that works. So 27 to the 1/3, same thing as the cube root of 27, is equivalent to 3. 64 to the 1/6, same thing. Do your radical. 64 is your base. Power is still 1. The index is 6. So we're trying to figure out what number multiplied by itself 6 times gives us 64. Well, I would start with 2 on this one. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 2. Do it 6 times, so that's the same as saying 2 to the 6th. If you put that in your calculator, you would get 64. So the 6th root of 64 is equivalent to 2. All right, here we're changing just a little bit. Keep the radical. The base is still 81. But now look, your power is 3. And your index is 4. Excuse me. So we're figuring out what is the fourth root of 81 first, and then we'll take it to the third power. So if you want to start at 2, then that's fine. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Same as 2 to the fourth. Hopefully you're starting to remember some of these by now. All right, well that's 16, so that's too low. So now let's try 3. If you do 3 to the fourth, let me go back here. Always want to make sure your exponent is smaller than the number that you write. So 3 to the fourth. All right, well 3 to the fourth power is equivalent to 81, so that's exactly what we have here. So the fourth root of 81 is 3, but then we still have the power of 3 that we got to take it to. All right, so fourth root of 81, we did that. That's equivalent to 3. Then we got to bring that third power here. So now we got 3 to the third, so 3 times 3 times 3. That equals 27. So our actual answer is 27. So 81 to the 3/4 power is the same thing as taking the fourth root of 81 and then taking it to the third power, which is equivalent to 27. All right, here, 256 is our base. You have a power of 3 and an index of 4. So we first want to figure out the fourth root of 256. So 2 would be too small. If you want to start with 3, you could do that. I'm going to go ahead and start with 4 and see what happens. So if I do 4 times 4 times 4, because I'm taking the fourth root. So that's the same as saying 4 to the fourth power, and that does equal 256. So the fourth root of 256 is equivalent to 4, but now I also got to take that to the third power. So 4 to the third power is 4 times 4 times 4, so that would be 64. So 256 to the 3/4 power would be equivalent to 64. All right, and last one here. 64 is your base. 7 is going to be your power in here, and then 6 is your index. So we're trying to figure out what number multiplied by itself 6 times would give us 64. So we want to start low with the 2's. All right, so we want to see what 2 to the 6th power is equivalent to. All right, and that would be 64. So what that means is when we take the 6th root of 64, that gives us 2. All right, and then we got to take 2 to the 7th power. Get a different color here. We want to bring down the 7th power. So now 2 to the 7th power would be equivalent to 128. And that would be, you would just want to write that out 7 times if you had to do it this way. So 128. So 64 to the 7/6 is the same as saying 128. So hopefully this helps you get done with your V.11 IXL. Remember, you only got to get a SMART score of 70.